about 17 of these cards, so I'm going to start passing them out. And I want you to look up the verse and then just stick the card in there. So when we get to it, read it for us, okay?
Do I have to move it? Yeah, you can move it wherever you want. I'll just sit.
So you can also move, this will take it closer right there, but I don't know if you need to do that.
Okay. I think what I'll do is I'll sit behind it so no one runs it over.
So look it up, and you guys remember your song, right? That helps you figure out where the books of the Bible are. I still have a bunch of, I didn't do a Bible. And I'll give you guys Bibles
I
too.
think I only did 1 year of the Old Testament by any of the Sunday school, because I started in like
What did you just say about the Old Testament? Who needs a Bible?
It's old.
It's old.
That's what, you know that.
All right.
Where's the New Testament? I can't find it.
Well, look at the bottom here is like where you're going to see. In
Oh,
these
it's
Bibles,
usually on the top.
right. In these Bibles, you know, some Bibles have them like indexed more easily. These Bibles, you're going to see the books of the Bible at the bottom of the page. All right. Did I give you a card? No.
Also, there's donuts and juice.
Okay, I'm going to double up on some of these Bible verses here. Did I give someone Joshua 24? Yeah, here's another one, Joshua 24.
Are we going to do Reader's Digest yet?
Do you want to?
No, that's old.
That's old.
I
Never
think
gets
I would
old.
have
We don't
it
do that anymore.
Let you guys
History is old.
decide.
The one history is old, and you have a whole class dedicated to it.
It's social studies. That's cool.
Okay,
I found it.
all right. So, get that verse ready because we're going to need it at a certain point. But let's talk about what we did last week, real quick. What was the point of last week's story?
Meet Joshua.
Right, meet Joshua. The Reader's Theater specifically was the story of what?
Warfare. I just turned to a page that said rules of warfare. I didn't know warfare. I didn't know
Anybody here last week?
I wasn't.
Yeah?
Alex knows.
Alexander, what ended up happening? What was the main point of the story?
So everyone, we had the Reader's Theater,
Yeah,
and
we were in
the
the
guy got a new name.
Hosea, son of Nun, became Joshua.
Yeah.
That's right.
And the guy who was like the right hand man of the king told his family to come.
Joseph, right? You're talking about Joseph, right? That's how the Israelites got to Egypt in the first place, right?
Right.
They all went over to Egypt, and then God leads them out of Egypt with Moses, right? Parts the Red Sea, and they leave Egypt, and now they're in the desert. And then what happens? Does anyone remember? Is it Noah?
Yes. They were all everyone except for Joshua and the kids
And Caleb.
Caleb were everybody was there for 40 years, and everyone except the kids Joshua and Caleb died.
Right, and the reason is because, do you remember the mission that they were sent on? They were sent on a special mission to go check out the land of Canaan. Do you guys not remember this?
And they didn't
Yeah.
believe what they said. They didn't believe what the sentries said or the scouts said.
Well, of the 12, there was one spy from each tribe that got sent out, and they came back, and it was only Joshua and Caleb that said, we could go and do this. And everyone else, remember Shamua, that one I had Shamua speak for the other 9. It's like, we can't do this. We're like grasshoppers to them. They're giants. They're gonna kick our butts. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so all the Israelites were like, well, we don't want to go. We should choose somebody and go back to Egypt. We should choose a new leader and go back to Egypt. And God was mad. All right, God was mad. And as a consequence, what did God do? Bernadette, you read God. Do you remember what the Lord said?
Oh, well, it's like, some of them, they went back and then they all got destroyed.
God
He made
said,
them stay for 40 years and none of this generation will
Oh, right,
pass
right,
into
right.
the-
yes.
That's why they had to wait 40 years for all of them to die.
Yes, yes. Does this ring a bell with anybody? Yes? Okay, this is a special bonus question. But do you remember Moses said, when you go on this mission, this exploring mission, see if you can bring back some fruit of the land. Does anyone remember what they brought back?
Fruit of the what?
Land, fruit of the land of Canaan. Bring back some fruit.
Oh, milk and honey.
No?
No?
Poppy. They did bring back figs. Awesome. But pomegranates, yes, they brought back
They
pomegranates.
bring back dates.
But there's one of the grapes was the last thing that they brought. So in honor of that, they brought you guys fig Newtons. It's not quite figs, but it's fig Newtons.
They're things with physics.
Yeah, you guys can open them up and
They make you
pass
smarter?
them around. I
No.
also,
They're figs that can teach you physics.
Big
I get
six.
it, Yes, Newton. All right, and then I brought grapes. Anybody wants grapes?
Okay.
Pass those around. And then the other thing I brought, just as a show and tell kind of thing, was a pomegranate.
Ah.
I don't know if any of you have actually seen or eaten these things. They're pain to like,
They're a lot of work.
Pain to cut. Pain to cut.
yeah, and so I broke one up, not so much as a snack, but more just to see. Because this morning when I broke it up, like I ended up having to change all my clothes, because I ended up with pomegranates all over me. Yeah, anyway, if you guys are curious, I broke one and you can have some. Anyway. But this is what it looks like. Like a face.
Thank you for not letting go.
You're welcome. Okay, so today we got Joshua part 2. They've been wandering around in the desert and they are ready to actually cross over into the promised land. All right? So we already did this. Who's Joshua? Okay, so the second question. What does Joshua get to do that Moses doesn't? Noah.
He gets to go into the promised land.
He gets to go to the promised land. Yeah. And Moses is part of that whole generation that doesn't get to go. Moses gets to see, but he doesn't get to go. And it wasn't, you guys should read this, because wasn't for the same reason. Moses did something else that God said, you know what, because of that, you're not going.
How does he see but doesn't get to go?
He goes to the top of this mountain.
Oh.
He gets to look out over it, and then read about it. Read it. It's all in here, and I'll point to where. Okay, so Joshua, the name. You guys all see that? So we talked about this because Alex remembered that Moses gives Hoshea, son of Nun, the name Joshua. Hoshea means salvation, and Joshua, adding that J part of it, is Yahweh is salvation, or Yahweh saves. And then the fascinating part to me is that Jesus is the same name as Joshua, except it's the Greek form. So, who has Matthew 1:21?
I do.
You do. Let's hear it, Victor.
It says, soon she will bear a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins.
So right there in Matthew, so what is Matthew? Is that Old or New Testament? New, right. So Matthew, that very first part of Matthew is talking about the birth of Jesus, and the angel telling Mary, you're going to name him Jesus because he will save the people from their sins. Okay, so how are Joshua and Jesus, how are they alike? They have the same name.
They start with the same moment.
They still are, yeah, they do.
They're both very important people.
Right, why? What's the similarity
Because
between
they
them?
saw the promised land.
Because they saw the promised land? Anybody want to
They lead.
expand on that?
They lead.
They lead. So, anyone else have any other ideas? Maybe you don't, maybe it will become more clear by the end of this lesson, like what Joshua does. Noah?
Joshua leads the Israelites into a promised land, and then Jesus, he leads us into the promised land that is heaven.
Good answer. Good answer. I like it. Anybody else? Does this make sense to you guys? Like Joshua, we talked last week, he's a military leader. He is out there fighting with a sword, and he's that type of leader. Then Jesus, again, we're talking like hundreds of years later, Jesus comes on the scene, and people are expecting him also to be that same type of military leader. Yeah, but he's not. He's a different type of leader. It's a different type of salvation that he's offering us.
Joshua had a physical salvation, and Jesus had a spiritual salvation.
I like that summary too. Those are good answers. Okay, so let's move on. So we have this book of Joshua. All right, so that was Joshua the man. Now Joshua the book. Okay, so you've got a book in here called Joshua. And you guys remember your song, right? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, the 5 books of Moses. Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 2 Samuels,
2 Kings,
2 Chronicles. Yeah.
Right.
So Joshua comes right after the 5 books of Moses, right? In your song, right? So Joshua has 2 main parts. It's only 24 chapters. You could read a chapter a day and be done with it in less than a month. Okay, so the first set of chapters is called the Book of War, and the next part is the Book of Distribution. So do you guys know what Joshua is distributing and to whom? No one, do you have a guess?
Salvation?
In the end.
Not quite. Anybody?
Freedom?
Well, that's close. You guys are getting closer. It's the land. It's the promised land that he is distributing in this book. In the book of Joshua, first they go in and they conquer it, and then he apportions it to the 12 tribes. So we have 12 tribes of Israel because Jacob had 12 sons. Jacob was renamed Israel. Drew, do you want to come up here? Okay, thanks. Jacob was renamed as Israel. He's got 12 sons, and each one of those sons starts a family that becomes a tribe. So we have actually 12 tribe names here on this map. And that's what happens in the book of Joshua. In fact, like these first 3, Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, he tells them, you'll read this if you read the whole book of Joshua. He says, okay, your families can settle here, but you, the fighting men, have to cross over the river with us and fight and conquer the rest of the land before you can go back and take possession of your land. So this is like Moses is here for this. And then they have to come over here and take all of this. So I don't know if this is something that strikes you, but Joseph is a son of Jacob. He's in fact the whole reason they went over to Egypt in the first place, right? Joseph is not listed as a tribe here. And that is because Joseph had 2 sons that then Jacob said, I'm going to adopt your 2 sons as my own. And so Manasseh and Ephraim are Joseph's sons. They're like Jacob's grandsons. But they become tribes. Then the other son who isn't listed here is Levi. And Levi, it talks about this throughout the 5 books, and then also in Joshua. They don't get land apportioned to them. They are responsible for the tabernacle. And so they become a tribe, a class of priests who sort of settle with everybody. So they don't have their own pocket like the rest. So that's what the book of Joshua is all about. If you read it, and there's like specific descriptions of the pieces of land that they're going to get. Your land is going to go from this river to this coast over here to this part over here, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so Joshua the book. I wrote here, it's the continuation of the story that begins in Genesis, because it really is one continuous thing. And it talks about God's active involvement in the Israelites' victory. in the promised land and how the land is apportioned. So who's got Joshua 1, 3 through 5? Alexander, would you read it? And whoever's got Joshua 1, 6 through 9, be ready. So this is God talking to Joshua at the very beginning of the book.
Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you, as I promised to Moses. From the wilderness and the Lebanon as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites to the great sea in the west shall be your territory. No one shall be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so will be with you. I will not fail you or forsake you.
All right, so God's promising to Joshua, everywhere, my translation says, everywhere you set your foot is going to be yours. And I'm going to be with you, just as I was with Moses. Who's got the second part, Joshua 1?
Be strong and courageous, for you shall put this people in possession of the land that I swore to their ancestors to give them. Only be courageous and only be strong and very courageous, being careful to act in accordance with all the law that my servant Moses commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, so that you may be successful wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth. You shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to act in accordance with all that is written in it. For then you shall make your way prosperous, and then you shall be successful. I hereby command you, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go.
So, did you guys hear that? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. I mean, do you guys realize that those words to Joshua are also words to you? They are words to you right now. That part says, make sure that you follow the law. Don't depart from it. Don't go to the right or to the left. Follow the law and know that the Lord is with you. Do you guys realize what this might mean for you? I mean, I think that is, when I think about that, like, it's God saying that to us now, just as it is that God saying that to Joshua. Be strong and courageous. I don't know. That to me gives me a sense of confidence, maybe?
Words
Like,
to live by.
I don't know, like, you know, there's trouble at work, there's a situation at work that I have to deal with that I don't want to deal with, that's uncomfortable. But then I've been reading Joshua this week because I've been preparing for this lesson, and it's be strong, be courageous. Anyway. Okay, who's got Joshua 24, 14 through 15? Teresa, would you read that? Okay, this is Joshua talking now. This is Joshua addressing all the Israelites after they've already taken the land. It's the end of the book.
Okay. Now therefore reverence the Lord, and serve him in sincerity and in faithfulness. Put away the gods that your ancestors served beyond the river and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. Now if you are unwilling to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served, or the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord.
So Joshua is telling them, okay, now that you're here in the promised land, you have to make a choice. Who are you going to serve? You're going to serve the gods of the people who are already here, or are you going to serve Yahweh? And he says, well, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So those are kind of like the bookends that I wanted you to hear about in Joshua the book. Anybody have any questions so far? Okay. So, Joshua 1 is God telling Joshua, be strong, be courageous, this is what I want you to do. Joshua 2 is kind of like maybe one of the first stories. Joshua has a lot of cool stories, just like Genesis and Exodus have a lot of cool stories in them. This one is Rahab and the spies. So Rahab lives in Jericho, which is a walled city. It's like the first obstacle the Israelites are going to come to. Do you guys want to do Reader's Theater or not? I have a 2-page Reader's Theater. No? Then we can skip it. And I will just tell you the story real quick in a few sentences. Joshua says, hey, I'm going to send these spies out to go check it out, like see what we're up against. These 2 spies go, and they go into this walled city of Jericho. And while they're there, this woman, Rahab, hides them in her house. Okay? So then the king hears about it, like, oh, there's spies in the land, and he sends a message to Rahab, sends a messenger, like, I need these spies, turn them over. And she's like, I don't know where they went. They were here, but they went on their way. Meanwhile, she's hiding them in her house. Like, she's hiding them on the rooftop. And then she makes a deal with them. She says to them, we have heard the report about you guys and how you conquered Egypt, and our hearts are melting in fear because of you. So she's conveying to them, we're really afraid, but can you, since I saved your lives here, can you save my family, me and my family? And the spies say, yes, we'll do that. Here, tie this red cord in your window. And she happened to live in a house that was part of the city wall. So the spies tell her, our lives for your lives. Since you saved us, we're going to save you and your family when that comes. And then they bring back the report to Joshua that, like, everyone's afraid of us. So that's sort of a confidence builder. You come back and, like, you're ready to go to war, and you come back and think about it. You guys play sports? Anybody play sports here? All right. Drew, you play soccer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what would happen if, like, a friend overheard a conversation with your opposing team, and then comes back and tells you and everybody else, like, that other team, they know you guys are really good. They are so frightened. I mean, would that be like...
Well, they do the whole thing. It would probably be for my team, it'd be great because they're too scared to come out, so we just go right through.
Yeah, like it would be like a tremendous boost of confidence, I think, if you knew the other team was, like, really afraid of you guys. Afraid. All right, so that's the whole point of this spy mission, is that they find out, everybody's afraid, including Jericho, which is a walled city. So a walled city, we're going to talk about how you attack a walled city in a minute. But first of all, there's a couple of other stories that I want you guys to compare between Joshua and Moses. So who's got Joshua 3, 7, and 8?
Mom?
Does someone have Joshua 3 handy? Okay, can you read it?
The Lord said to Joshua, this day I will begin to exalt you in the sight of Israel, so that they may know that I will be with you as I was Moses.
Is that all of it?
I'm pretty sure.
Joshua 3, 7, and 8. Okay, who's got 14 and 16? 14 through 16?
I do. When the people set out from their tents to cross over the Jordan, the priests bearing the Ark of the Covenant were in front of the people. Now the Jordan overflows all its banks throughout the time of harvest. So when those who bore the ark had come to Jordan, and the feet of the priests bearing the ark were dipped in the edges of the water. That's all.
16 says the water from upstream stopped flowing.
Okay.
It piled up in a heap a great distance away at a town called Adam in the vicinity of Zarephath. While the water flowing down to the Sea of the Arabah, the Salt Sea, was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. So what is happening in this? God says to Joshua, today I will exalt you in the eyes of all Israel, just like I did with Moses. And then what does he do about the waters of the Jordan? He stops them so they pile up in a heap, and then the people cross over on dry land. Does this sound like something you guys know?
That's it.
Can someone, who's got Exodus 13?
I do.
Can you read it, please?
Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. The Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night and turned the sea into dry land. And then the waters were divided. The Israelites went into the sea on dry ground. The waters forming a wall for them on their left and on their right. I'm sorry, their right and their left.
So to me, it's like God is doing the same thing. He did it when they left Egypt, and he's doing it now when they're entering the promised land. It's a different body of water. Now it's the Jordan, but it's the same idea that the water is being parted and the Israelites are crossing. Okay, so who's got Joshua 5? Sam, would you please read it?
Sure. And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho, that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him, with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him, and said unto him, Art thou for us, or for our adversaries? And he said, Nay, but as captain of the horse of the Lord, am I now come? And Joshua fell on his face to the earth, and did worship, and said unto him, What saith my Lord unto his servant? And the captain of the Lord's host said unto Joshua, Loose thy shoe from thy foot, for the place where thou standest is holy. And Joshua did so.
Okay, so Joshua meets somebody that is called, what was it in your translation? The captain of the Lord's host?
Captain of the host of the Lord.
And my translation says the commander of the Lord's army. Okay, so it was like an angel? Well, that's an interesting question. Who's got Exodus 3? Read it.
Moses was keeping the flock by his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led his flock beyond the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of a bush. He looked, and the bush was blazing, yet it was not consumed. Then Moses said, I must turn aside and look at this great sight, and see why the bush is not burned up. When the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here I am. Then he said, Come no closer. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground.
Okay, so we have two different translations, so it wasn't quite the exact same words that you heard. But if you read them both in the same translation, the words are almost identical. About remove your shoes, you are standing on holy ground. So in the one case, it's Moses meeting God in the burning bush, right? The bush that's burning that never gets consumed. And now here's Joshua. He's run into this man and he says, Are you with us or are you against us? And that man says, Neither. You're with me, basically. Right? So, yeah, he says, Neither. But as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. And then Joshua fell face down and worships him. And then that man says, Take off your shoes, Joshua, because where you're standing is holy. So yeah, who is it? Who do you guys think it is that Joshua is meeting? Is it an angel? Do angels accept human worship? Typically, no.
Probably God in some other form.
It's God in some other form, right? Because other places, who else do you know that has met up with an angel?
Mary.
Think New Testament. Yeah, Mary. Who said Mary? All right, Mary. Who else?
Joseph.
Yeah, New Testament, like Gabriel comes over, right? Gabriel tends to be God's messenger angel. And what is the main thing that angels say when people encounter them?
Do not be afraid.
Yeah, do not be afraid. And they also say, like, this comes up in, you guys would not have read this, in Revelation, where John is writing this revelation he has from an angel. And the angel says to John, don't worship me, I'm just an angel. That's not what's happening here. Joshua worships this person. And so I think that leads to the conclusion that this person is God. And not, Yahweh, right? Who is the person form of God? Jesus. Right? So biblical scholars think that this is a pre-incarnate encounter with Christ. Which is interesting because it happens a couple of times in the Old Testament. And Jesus shows up. Not as that name, but that's what people think. Okay.
What do you think shoes symbolize? What do you think, like, when Jesus washes feet, and that, what's the deal with feet and shoes? What is your
Yeah, they're disgusting. Who said it?
I did.
All right, Cole.
Shoes are disgusting?
I think that's right.
No, feet. Feet are
Feet are disgusting.
Shoes are those shoes. In my house, we like to take off our shoes before we walk on the carpets, right? Because it helps keep the carpets clean. So that's what we do. And I think in the Muslim culture, it's an insult to show someone the bottom of your shoes. I've heard this.
The bottom of your shoes?
Or to throw shoes at them, or that kind of thing. Like, this is a huge
Oh, right.
insult, right?
Remember Bush got a shoe thrown in him?
Yeah, so I think it has something to do with this.
Don't shoes separate you from the earth? Right?
There's a lot of things about being unclean throughout the entire Bible, really, Old Testament and New Testament. And so maybe the shoes are the unclean part, because there's not a whole lot you can do about your feet. But your feet will stay cleaner because the dirt will go on the shoes, and uncleanliness seems to not be a thing that God likes. So,
But and also, like, shoes like today are kind of a big deal for some, like sports name, like shoes make the man or sort of thing. But like, take off your shoes. Like, show me, like, no mask, no low pretense here, just
level the playing.
everybody has feet. Everybody has feet. Well, basically, mostly everybody has feet, but everybody has different kinds of shoes, but
We're all the same without shoes.
but feet are like
Some
a
people are
leveling
born with
thing, level playing field.
What's that called?
Some people are born with feet.
That's true.
That's what I
They're the
meant,
exception.
except word, yeah.
Yeah. Noah, do you have another idea?
I think that shoes might symbolize, like, using the context we have when they're told to take off their shoes because they're on Holy Land. I think it might mean the shoes are what is separating them from God, maybe in some form.
That's what I was thinking too.
I think it's like showing honor. You are in a place that is holy. Take off the shoes that have the crud of the world on them and just present yourself. All right.
Weird way to look
Yeah?
at it. Yeah. To me, at least.
All right. So now we're into this next part of, I agree, it is a little strange. I mean, it's a different culture.
Yeah.
It's a different cultural thing, right? We're looking at this with our 21st century eyes. And you gotta remember, this is BC, Different culture. All right, so this is actually a picture of a walled city. This map actually is Jerusalem. So, I don't know if you can see, but there's streetlights here. This is not an ancient city. I mean, it is an ancient city. It's not an ancient picture, is what I mean to say. All right, so Jericho is a walled city, and it's the first thing that they come to. So, what are some ideas for how you attack a walled city?
Well, you take out the bottom.
Okay. Take out the bottom. How would you do that, Paul?
You take stuff and, yeah.
You blast the wall, right?
Take out the bottom.
Okay. Luca, what other
Take a
ideas?
pickaxe and you mine through.
You could
Take
try
the
to
materials.
break through the wall. Noah, what ideas do you
You
have?
could scare them out.
You could scare them out.
You
Okay.
dig under. That's what I was gonna say, you could dig a tunnel.
Dig under.
Climb over it.
Climb over.
Right,
Like
yeah.
how many movies have you seen where they're like putting up ladders and then the people on top of the wall are throwing boiling oil over the edge? You know, like that kind of thing. Try to scale it. Try to scale the wall.
Use a ladder.
Use a ladder. Yeah.
Acting like people who live in there to get in.
Ooh, good one.
Ooh, pretending you're part of the. Yes, these are all great ideas. The other thing.
Drop them in.
Yeah.
Parachute.
Although we don't have flying things at this moment, except for catapults. Yes, catapults. And it's when we're back, we're BC. BC. Okay, so we got this battle plan. We have to come up with a battle plan for taking Jericho. So we just talked about this. So let's read God's battle plan. Who's got Joshua 6, 1 through 5? Could you please, can you tell us your name?
Aaliyah.
Aaliyah, please read it for us. Are you chewing?
Oh.
Does someone else have it handy? Or do you let Aaliyah finish chewing? You
Now
ready?
Jericho was shut up inside and out because of the Israelites. No one came out and no one went in. The Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have handed Jericho over to you along with its kings and soldiers. You shall march around the city, all the warriors circling the city once. Thus you shall do for 6 days, with 7 priests bearing 7 trumpets of rams, horns before the ark. On the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, the priests blowing the trumpets."
Okay. And then, is there one more sentence after that?
Yeah. When they make a long blast with the ram's horn, as soon as you hear the sound of the trumpet, then all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city will fall down flat.
Okay, so that's the battle plan. Did you guys catch this battle plan?
Yeah.
What are we gonna do?
Use a ram.
No, we're not gonna use the ram, Luca. What does God tell them to do?
Just march around the city.
March around the city. Yeah, they're gonna march around the city one time for 6 days in a row. And then on day 7, they're gonna march around 7 times. And then they're gonna blow their trumpets and tell everyone to shout. And then God says the walls are gonna come down. Does this sound like a good idea?
Nope.
Does this sound like it's gonna work? No. It doesn't necessarily sound like it's gonna work. That's why, I don't know, that's why I think Joshua is like to be commended for trusting what God says. This is what we're gonna do. Y'all, we're gonna stand up, we're gonna go out, we're gonna march around this city. Now, if you were in the city, what would you think about that? Remember, Drew, you read last week how many fighting men there were. Do you remember the number?
I think it was like 600,000.
Thousand.
1,000.
Yes,
It's a
600,000.
different number.
Yes, 600,000. There's 600,000, an army of 600,000 fighting men. All right? And they're going to march around this city once per day for 6 days.
That's
I mean-
6 football stadiums.
That's a lot of people marching around.
And you get tired and shuffle it back.
What do you think the people inside the city think of this?
Crazy. And they're stupid.
No, I think
Yes.
they would be terrified.
They're up to
I think
something.
they would be absolutely terrified to watch these people march, 600,000 people marching around, and they're just like, what the heck are they doing?
I
Yeah.
would be scared what their plan was afterwards.
Seems pretty ominous, like, whoa, what's going on here?
Right, okay, so does someone have Joshua 2, 8, and 9? This is, can you read it, Landon? This is the part of the Reader's Theater that we didn't do, remember? But this is what Rahab says. Go ahead, read. Joshua 2, 8, and 9.
Before they went to sleep, she came up to them on the roof and said to the men, I know that the Lord has given you the land, and the dead of you has fallen on us, and that all of the land melted in fear before you. We have heard the Lord dried up the water and Red Sea.
So she says to them, the quote, again, from my translation is, our hearts are melting in fear because of you. We've heard about you, and we're frightened, basically. And she lives, that story is taking place in Jericho before this battle. And then the battle happens. Does it work? Someone have Joshua 6?
Yes, I have Joshua 6:20.
Nate, read it. 20 and 21?
Yeah. So the people shouted, and the trumpets were blown. As soon as the people heard the sound of the trumpets, they raised a great shout, and the wall fell down flat. So the people charged straight ahead into the city and captured it. Then they devoted to destruction by the edge of the sword and all in the city, both men and women, young and old, oxen, sheep, and donkeys.
All right. So it worked.
So just the trumpets blew the wall down?
The trumpets and then the loud shout from everybody, and then the walls came down.
The house of God, God's power.
Mr. Farron, can I have that? All right, so I have a PS, what happens to Rahab. This is interesting. We're running out of time. I'm not going to have you look it up. But basically, she and her family are saved. And then in Matthew 1 is the genealogy of Jesus. Matthew 1, 5, and 6 talks about how, oh, you have it. Can you read it real quick, Sharon?
An account of the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah. Salmon, the father of Boaz, by Rahab.
By Rahab.
Boaz, the father of Obed by Ruth, and Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David, and David was the father of Solomon by the wife of Uriah.
So Rahab ends up in Jesus' lineage. She ends up being the great-grandmother of King David. That's what happens to Rahab. Isn't that interesting? I think that's interesting. If you read the genealogy of Jesus, that's in Matthew 1, there are only 5 women who are mentioned. There's only 5. It's just the list of fathers. This father had this son, who was the father to this son, that was the father to this son. And there's only 5 women that show up in the list, and Rahab is one of them. Who are they? Tamar is one of them.
Ruth is one, Rahab is one.
Bathsheba is one, right?
No, it just says David was father of Solomon by the wife of Uriah.
By the wife of
Uriah.
Well, that's, we count her as one.
I don't know who the other 2 are.
Homework, gotta read it and look it up. All right, so we are coming up close to 11. Ken, what is your usual ending time? I mean, I have a couple more slides.
11:10.
Oh,
Or
11:10.
11:05.
11:05.
And I also have announcements.
Actually, Mary was one.
Mary is one. All right, Mary is one. Okay, so there's this famous song called Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho. I mean, that's like fought the battle, right? But this is a famous, and it's an African-American spiritual song. Does anybody know what it is? Anyone ever heard it?
Yeah.
Sharon knows it. Anybody else? You guys never heard this song? Okay, another thing for you for homework. Go to YouTube, type it in. Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho. There's a whole bunch of different versions of it on YouTube. There's the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. All right, a giant choir of people singing this. There's an Elvis version. There's just all kinds of versions of this song. And it goes, Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and walls came tumbling down. All right, that's the song, right? So I'm looking at these different YouTube versions of this song, because I was going to play it for you, but I'm just saying it for you instead. And there was one commenter on YouTube who said, Hey, have you read Joshua 6:21? The wholesale murder of women, children, and elderly is hardly something to celebrate. So, like this person is saying, why are we singing this great little jazzy tune about Joshua fit the battle of Jericho when really all these people died? And, some of them are innocent. Women, children, elderly people. All right, so I want you guys to know about this. So who's got Leviticus 18:21?
Oh.
This is why God said to Joshua, go in and destroy these people. Don't leave anyone alive. That doesn't happen. They don't destroy everybody. They make treaties with people. They let other people survive, etc., etc. It doesn't happen that they completely destroy everyone. But this is kind of like the background for why God gives them this command.
You shall not give any of your offspring to sacrifice them to Molech, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord.
Okay, so these people who are living in this place practice sacrifice of their own children. And God is warning the Israelites, do not sacrifice your own children to this god Molech, because I am the Lord your God. I don't want you to do this. That's bad, okay?
Part of why they died is because they were sacrificing their own people?
Yeah, that was part of their religious tradition.
Okay.
They often had human sacrifice, and it was often a firstborn or, but that was very common.
I'm thinking they died because of, starvation, famine, but that's part of why they all died, is because they were like fighting them, they were sacrificing their own food.
Well, I
They
think
weren't
that's
sacrificing
why.
them to eat them, they were sacrificing them to their belief system in
Right.
whatever gods they believed in.
Right. Either way, really bad.
Who knows off the top of your heads, what is the first of the 10 Commandments?
Love the Lord your God with all your heart.
I'm your only God.
I am the Lord your God.
I am the only God. You shall have no other God before me. Right? Right? So, basically, the way I see it is God took this set of people, the Israelites, and he said, okay, I'm making a covenant with you, and I'm going to tell you what it is, how I want you to live. And you folks are going to be like the example, all right? Because the rest of the world, he kind of set aside these people, and he decided, these are the people I'm focusing on to spread my message.
Right.
All right? And part of the message is, don't sacrifice your own kids.
Right.
All right? Who's got Deuteronomy 18? Noah, would you please read it?
Okay, sure.
9 through 12.
When you come into the land that the Lord your God is giving you, you must not learn to imitate the abhorrent practices of these nations. No one shall be found among you who makes a son or daughter pass through fire, or who practices divination, or is a soothsayer, or an augur, or a sorcerer, or one who casts spells, or who consults ghosts or spirits, or who seeks oracles from the dead, or whoever does these things is abhorrent to the Lord. It is because such abhorrent practices the Lord your God is driving them out before you.
Okay, so the things that these people do, God sees as aberrant, all right? And making the phrase was passing their kids through fire, right? Let no one found among you who sacrifices his son or daughter in the fire, is the way my translation is. Again, God is like, I don't want this, and I don't want you, Israel, following these practices. And that's why God gives that command. Take the land and destroy everything that's in it, because we're starting new. All right, that's where I'm going to end it. There's more. The last thing I wanted to read, but I think we're running out of time. At the very end of Genesis, Joseph says, "Carry my bones back. I don't want to be stuck here. I'm dying here. I'm in Egypt, but take my bones back." And so at the very end of Joshua, it talks about they carried Joseph's bones back and they buried them, which I thought was interesting. I hope you read more on your own because it's